Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV and my personal preview of the 100th edition of the Giro D'Italia. Next year's Giro in 2017 will start in Sardinia. That is the birthplace of Fabio Aru, who will be participating, one of the big Italian superstars of stage racing, along with Vincenzo Nibali. First three stages, I predict two, there's not mountainous obviously, but very hilly small roads, 2 field sprints for the sprinters and 1 for the breakaway for the pink jersey. That's followed by 2 stages in Sicily, the birthplace of Vincenzo Nibali, the other superstar of stage racing in Italy. Stage 4, the first GC day, the first strategic day. It comes quite early in the Giro and finishes on top of Monte Etna, the active volcano on the island of Sicily. So let's hope that Etna is not acting up before and during the Giro, and at any time in the foreseeable future. But Fabio Aru should have a chance to show himself in Sardinia to his hometown, home area fans, and same with Nibali, who is from Messina, stage 5, finishing in Messina, the hometown of Vincenzo Nibali, and probably a field sprint, and then transferring to the mainland. The next strategic stage is to a place called Blockhouse in central Italy. A very Germanic name, but another mountaintop finish. So 2 mountaintop finishes in the first 9 stages of this year's Giro. And stage 9 is the beginning of 3 very strategic stages. Stage 10, 40-kilometer, 25-mile time trial. That should be very decisive. And stage 11, another tough mountain day. So in the middle of the race, 3 very difficult stages in the central part of Italy. Stage 13, probably the last chance for the sprinters. So I don't know if a lot of top sprinters will be starting the Giro D'Italia, but very slim pickings for the sprinters in the next edition of the Giro, similar to what the Vuelta has tried to achieve in recent years with very mountainous courses that favor a dynamic GC battle throughout the 3 weeks preceding. So the Giro moving into the modern era of stage racing and following a similar pattern to the Vuelta with tough, shorter, very mountainous stages throughout the 3 weeks of racing. Stage 14 is another mountaintop finish to Europa. That's going to be decisive. But 16 through 21 will be where the Giro D'Italia is won and lost. You want to be near the top of the proceedings after stage number 11, but stage 16, Montirolo and the Stelvio. Ooh, baby! The Stelvio may be the most magnificent climb in all of cycling. Maybe the most, it's like, if I'm not mistaken, 42 switchbacks from bottom to top. Alpe d'Huez, for a little perspective, 21 switchbacks. So if you were to stack one Alpe d'Huez on top of itself, you would have the Stelvio. So stage number 16 is going to be spectacular. Stage 18 to St. Ulrich, another mountaintop finish. Stage 19, Piancavallo, also long, tough climb to the end. And stage 20, Asiago, another tough mountain stage. And then stage 21, the last day of the Giro, is also a time trial. So much more time trialing than the Tour de France. And so when we look at the race course, very balanced. It will finish in Milano with that last time trial, where the first Giro started and finished way back in 1909. A couple of interruptions for war, so we're at the 100th edition of the Giro d'Italia, and in my estimation, the most beautiful of the Grand Tours. The country of Italy is spectacular. Around every corner is a medieval village, or a vineyard, or a stunning mountain range. Fans are crazy. And I think that makes the Giro d'Italia the most beautiful of all the stage races. You can feel free to comment on that. What do you think the most beautiful one? I mean, of course, the Tour de France is the greatest race in the world, but the Giro d'Italia, maybe the most beautiful. The pink jersey as race leader, also not quite as iconic or well known as the yellow jersey of the Tour de France, but no less noteworthy and attention grabbing. I mean, the guy in the pink jersey in the Giro d'Italia, it's a very, very special award to have, and I'm quite proud to be a member of the team, the only American team, and along with Andy Hampson, the only American male winner of the Giro d'Italia in the history of the sport. So I gotta say, Andy Hampson looked great in the pink jersey when he led and won the Giro d'Italia. But we gotta go way back to 1988. I hate to admit that. That's closing in on 30 years. 30 years since an American man has won the Giro. But a couple of American women have won the women's Giro, Megan Guarnier and Mara Abbott. If you're a fan of professional cycling in all its forms, America is doing great in the Giro with, I believe, 3 wins in recent years, including most recently in 2016 with Megan Guarnier. So American women are getting it done in the Giro. I love the Giro. Last year it was won by Vincenzo Nibali. He's coming back. He's going to be on a new team, Bahrain Merida, and I'm going to call him for the win. And I'm going to do that because he's going to have a teammate called Joaquin Rodriguez, and those two were going to be very, very hard to beat. And Vincenzo Nibali has been very clever in recent years. He gets paid a lot of money, in excess of 5 million euros per year, and realizing he probably can't beat Chris Froome in the Tour de France, he has focused on the Giro, won that last year, and that's a way to reward the sponsor with a huge result in a race you can win. So clever tactics by Vincenzo Nibali, and like I said, stage 5 in Messina in Sicily, his hometown and birthplace, if I'm not mistaken, should give him the incentive to defend, and with Joaquin Rodriguez as a lieutenant, he's going to be very tough to beat. The man most likely to beat him would be Fabio Aru. Fabio Aru has had a great success in Grand Tours, including a win in the Vuelta, until last year's Tour de France. And Aru really struggled. I think he finished just outside the top 10 and 11th. But he had a very tough time in the Tour de France, and so he's going back to try to win the Giro d'Italia. He will be the lone leader on Astana after the departure of Vincenzo Nibali for Bahrain Merida. So he should have full support of his team. I'm calling him for the podium, but not the win. Stefan Kruijswijk, who almost won last year's Giro, will be back, crashing out on the penultimate mountain stage. He wound up 4th, but lost his lead. He lost his pink jersey lead by a crash, dramatic crash. That was on BobkeTV earlier this spring. And Stefan Kruijswijk was just a little tiny bit of bad luck away from winning the Giro d'Italia, so he'll be back with plenty of incentive and revenge on his mind. Esteban Chavez is also committed. He wound up 2nd last year, went into the lead on the last mountain stage, but Nibali was able to wrestle the jersey off of his shoulders as well. Esteban Chavez had a great Vuelta and is committed to doing the Giro again. And when Chavez does a Tour de France, that might change. But for now, he's committed to doing the Giro, and that should provide plenty of competition, especially in the mountains for Aru and Nibali. Froome, Contador, Quintana, we will probably not see them in this year's Giro, even though the race organizers try to entice Chris Froome with some long TT miles. Stage number 10 and the last stage, but Froome not taking the bait. And he has said he believes that the Giro's too hard to be able to be competitive at the Giro and the Tour de France a little bit later in the summer. So he will be sticking to his previous schedule that has proven to be very successful. In general terms, Tour of Romandy, Dauphiné, then Tour de France. He's won 3 tours. Froome's won 3 Tour de France's, so probably at this point not a great idea to change the template too much. It's been quite some time since anybody's been able to win the Giro and the Tour in the same year. I believe it was Marco Pantani in 1998, and in the current landscape, very difficult to win both. And even that win in 98 by Marco Pantani was very surprising. He started after a commanding win in the Giro. I believe he was dead last in the prologue a few weeks later in the Tour de France. And that's not an indication that you are having a great stage race or not even ready to do a great stage race. Jan Ullrich at the time was the defending champion. He was the overwhelming favorite, but Pantani kept chipping away and through brilliant climbing and a little bit of bad cold weather tactics by Jan Ullrich, where he, in the mountains, a very cold, rainy day in the mountains, Marco Pantani was able to get the yellow jersey and hold it to Paris. So quite remarkable. I don't believe we're going to see that this year or in the near future, but it will probably happen again in the history of cycling at some point. Who might be able to do that? The stars are going to have to line up, and I can't really identify anybody that has the ability to win the Giro and then the Tour de France. In my day, Greg LeMond did not win the Giro, but he won the Tour de France 3 times, and he enjoyed doing the Giro to get ready for the Tour. But those Giros were very different than today's Giros. In that era, Giuseppe Saroni and Francesco Moser were the 2 big Italian superstars. Both of them did win the Giro during their careers, but neither one of them was spectacular consistently in the mountains. And so Giro organizers had lots of stages that favored the sprinters and lots of stages that favored time trialists and rolling terrain, a few days in the mountains. And Greg LeMond believed that 3+ weeks in the Giro was perfect preparation for the Tour de France, and was able to win the Tour and the Giro in the same year, not in the same year, excuse me, but do the Giro in both 86 and 89, and then go on to win the Tour de France. The Giro format has changed dramatically since then. It's very mountainous, very dynamic, very tough to win. Same small roads, same crazy fans, same country, obviously, but it's changed quite a bit. We did in the 3 Giros that I did, 85, 88 that we won in 89, 88 very different from 85. And that's when Saroni and Moser had retired, and they put every mountain in the country in the Giro in 1988. And maybe they found a few more in 1989. 88, Andy Hampson won, as I mentioned earlier. And so it might have had the opposite effect that the race promoters were hoping for, and an Italian did not win that year. Tough to use the Giro because it's so hard these days, and as preparation for the Tour, and expect to go on to win the Tour de France. And for a rider like Chris Froome, or Nairo Quintana, or Alberto Contador, or Vincenzo Nibali, or Fabio Aru, it's a tremendous amount of pressure to be at your best in any Grand Tour that you do. You cannot really go to the Giro, finish outside the top 10 as a way to get race miles for the Tour de France or the Vuelta later in the year. That's just not acceptable. There's just way too much pressure, way too much media attention on our star athletes. So in this day and age, it's better for them to prepare for one big objective during the year, and that's what Chris Froome has done to great success in the Tour de France in recent years. The Giro it seems as if it's struggling a little bit to find a worldwide audience in the way that the Tour has done and the way the Vuelta has been able to do. Vuelta becoming maybe more popular than the Giro D'Italia in a worldwide sense. And so the Giro, I think with this year's format, will start to attract people to follow it. They've fast-forwarded their social media presence also, and that's going to help a lot. I love the Giro. Best of luck to all the riders. Finding it on your TV in the United States has not been easy for the last few years. And therefore, I am committing a daily synopsis, a daily update, a daily highlight of the proceedings on BobkeTV throughout the Giro D'Italia, schedule permitting. But I was able to do that during the Vuelta, so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do that during the Giro also. Gorgeous race. If you watch the Giro, you are going to be thoroughly entertained for 3+ weeks, and it's going to be great. Okay, everybody, you can subscribe, and if I don't get some more subscriptions, I might not be here come May when the Giro starts. But there's a little icon. You can click on that to subscribe, and if you want to buy some t-shirts, a little window there also. Move your arrow, click on that, and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Comments, thumbs up. Thanks everybody for watching, and until next time, happy trails.